The Cogitating Ceviché presents Lucian of Samosata, the satirical sage of the 2nd century, by Conrad Hannon, narration by Amazon Pali. Preface. Welcome to the 26th edition of our series, honoring the overlooked satirists and thinkers who altered our perspectives. In this installment, we explore the life and works of Lucian of Samosata, a seminal figure whose satirical writings have echoed through the corridors of time, offering a piercing insight into the human condition and societal norms. Lucian, hailing from the rich cultural mosaic of the Roman province of Syria, wielded his pen with a deft blend of irony, parody, and humor to critique the philosophical and social pretensions of the 2nd century. His works transcend the specificities of his era, providing timeless reflections on the absurdities of human behavior and belief systems. As we examine his contributions, we aim to highlight how Lucian's sharp wit and perceptive commentary make him a pivotal figure in the tradition of satire. Through this series, we continue our journey through the lives of those voices that, while influential, may not occupy the central place in mainstream historical discourse that they deserve. Our journey through Lucian's literary landscape is not just an academic endeavor, but a celebration of satire's power to provoke thought, challenge authority, and effect change. Join us as we uncover the layers of Lucian's satire, appreciating his artistry and understanding his impact on his contemporaries and the generations that followed. We invite you to reflect on the relevance of his perspectives in today's world, where satire remains a vital tool for commentary and critique. Conrad Hannon. Introduction. Lucian of Samosata, an eminent figure of classical antiquity, carved a niche for himself as a master rhetorician and satirist, articulating his sharp wit and observant critiques in the Greek language. Born in the small town of Samosata, located in the ancient Roman province of Syria, now part of modern-day Turkey, Lucian's early life was steeped in the rich confluence of Hellenistic cultures. This diverse and dynamic backdrop shaped his literary voice and intellectual perspectives. In an era marked by the blending of Greek, Roman, and Eastern traditions, Lucian's work emerged as a vibrant testament to the cultural melting pot of his homeland. His writings reflect the rhetorical education typical of his time and embody a unique synthesis of cultural elements that characterized the Hellenistic period. As a satirist, Lucian utilized this multicultural awareness to enhance his critiques of contemporary society and classical myths, employing a cosmopolitan wit that resonated well beyond the boundaries of Samosata. Early life and education. Lucian's early life in the bustling trade hub of Samosata provided him with a front-row seat to the exchanges of ideas and cultures that characterized the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire. From a young age, he was exposed to the Greek language and literature, which was the lingua franca of education and administration, amidst a populace that was a tapestry of Assyrian, Persian, and Roman influences. His hometown, positioned on the banks of the Euphrates, was not only a physical crossroads but also a crucible for mixing philosophical and literary traditions. Lucian's education in rhetoric began in this intellectually fertile environment. Here, he would have first been trained in the art of persuasion, an education typical for someone of his class aiming to rise in the administrative ranks of the Roman Empire. However, Lucian's writings suggest a pivot from a straightforward career path in law or administration to a more unconventional route focused on satire and literary criticism. This shift indicates a robust intellectual curiosity and perhaps a dissatisfaction with the status quo. The influence of Lucian's Syrian heritage on his literary style is significant. Living in a region often considered peripheral to the Greek and Roman cultural centers, Lucian was perfectly positioned to observe and critique the dominant cultures of the time from an outsider's perspective. This vantage point and his exposure to diverse socio-political and religious beliefs sharpened his satirical edge. Lucian's satires frequently target the pretensions of cultural and intellectual authority, reflecting his peripheral perspective on the cosmopolitan cultures of the Mediterranean world. His work is imbued with playfulness and irreverence, a likely byproduct of his multicultural upbringing, which taught him to navigate and question various layers of societal norms and behaviors. Literary career. Lucian's transition from a traditional rhetorician to a celebrated satirical writer marked a significant pivot in his career, reflecting a profound shift in his professional aspirations and creative expressions. Initially trained in rhetoric, which was intended to prepare him for a career in law or public administration, Lucian soon found the constraints of conventional oratory unsatisfying. His burgeoning interest in satire emerged as a response to the pomp and circumstance of the oratorical culture prevailing in the courts and political arenas of the Roman Empire. Satire offered him a more flexible and nuanced medium to articulate his critiques of society and human behavior more freely and with a sharper edge. Lucian's literary career was notably shaped by his extensive travels across the Mediterranean, which exposed him to a wide range of cultures, philosophies, and literary forms. His journeys took him from his native Syria to Greece, Italy, and Gaul, allowing him to gather a rich tapestry of experiences and insights that would profoundly influence his writing. Athens, in particular, played a crucial role in his development as a satirist. The city was the heart of philosophical and rhetorical education and a vibrant cultural center that provided him with ample material and inspiration for his satirical works. During his time in Athens, Lucian would have been immersed in studying classical Greek literature and philosophy, which he both revered and ridiculed in his later works. His exposure to the works of Plato, Homer, and other classical authors is evident in his sophisticated parodies and dialogues, which often used the forms and styles of his predecessors to challenge their ideas and expose the follies of contemporary philosophers and sophists. The intellectual and cultural milieu of Athens, combined with the diverse influences from his travels, enabled Lucian to refine his approach to satire, blending classical literary techniques with a cosmopolitan critique of his time's social and intellectual pretensions. Major works and themes. Lucian's A True Story is a pioneering narrative that ventures into what many consider the earliest form of science fiction. The plot is a fantastical voyage that satirizes the adventure and travel tales popular in his time, which often stretched the boundaries of believability. Lucian's narrative boldly crosses these boundaries, featuring journeys to the moon, interplanetary warfare involving solar and lunar inhabitants, and encounters with bizarre creatures such as a whale island and a sea of milk. Through exaggerated scenarios and the explicit declaration that none of the story is true, Lucian mocks the gullibility of readers and listeners, who readily accept the improbable as fact. This work highlights his skill in parody and showcases his ingenuity in conceptual narrative structures that break away from the traditional. In Dialogues of the Gods and Dialogues of the Dead, Lucian continues his satirical critique but shifts his focus toward mythology and the social dynamics of his time. These dialogues cleverly anthropomorphize deities and legendary heroes, presenting them with all too human flaws such as vanity, pettiness, and greed. By depicting the gods as bickering, scheming characters far from their idealized portrayals in traditional myth, Lucian exposes the absurdity and arbitrary nature of divine intervention as portrayed in classical myths. Similarly, Dialogues of the Dead provides a platform for the deceased of all ranks to voice their grievances or mock their previous lives, thus satirizing social conventions, philosophical pretensions, and the universality of death that levels all human disparities. The Passing of Peregrinus is another incisive piece that targets societal gullibility and philosophical hypocrisy. The work revolves around the life and death of Peregrinus Proteus, a controversial philosopher known for constantly pursuing religious and philosophical sects to gain fame and fortune. Lucian's account of Peregrinus' highly theatrical suicide at the Olympic Games serves as a biting commentary on the way philosophical and religious leaders manipulate their followers and how society, in turn, elevates such charlatans to martyr-like statuses. Through this narrative, Lucian critiques individual hypocrisy and the broader cultural and social systems that allow and even encourage such deceit. Together, these works illustrate Lucian's adept use of satire to dissect and discuss the follies and vices of his contemporaries and the mythical figures revered in his society. His clever manipulation of classical forms for comedic and critical purposes underscores his legacy as a master satirist whose works transcend their creation's specific cultural and historical contexts. Style and influence. Lucian's satirical style is characterized by a masterful command of parody, irony, and exaggeration, techniques that he employed with remarkable finesse to mock and critique his society's mores, the intellectual pretentiousness of his time, and the fantastical elements in popular stories. Through parody, Lucian mimicked and mocked the styles and themes of well-known literary and philosophical works, thereby exposing their underlying absurdities. His Dialogues of the Gods effectively parodies the revered epics in religious texts, humanizing divine figures to critique the irrational aspects of religious belief and the fickleness attributed to gods. Irony is another tool Lucian wields expertly. It permeates his narratives, creating a layer of sophisticated humor that invites his audience to question deeper societal norms and the nature of truth. In A True Story, Lucian uses irony to turn the traveler's tale, a popular genre, on its head, by asserting that everything he writes is a lie, thus critiquing the credulousness of those who blindly accept improbable tales as truths. Exaggeration is vivid in works like A True Story, where the hyperbolic adventures serve to satirize the exaggerated claims of historical and contemporary travel narratives and the gullibility of those who believe them. By inflating the implausibility of his stories to absurd levels, Lucian points to the need for skepticism and critical thinking. Lucian's work mirrors the intellectual currents of the Second Sophistic, a period of cultural renaissance in the Roman Empire with a revival of classical Greek ideas and an emphasis on ornate rhetorical skill. His satires, steeped in sophisticated rhetoric, reflect and critique the era's cultural and intellectual pretensions, demonstrating how rhetoric can be used to persuade, beautify, mock, and subvert. The legacy of Lucian in the realm of satirical literature is profound. His methods and themes significantly influenced the development of the Menippean satire, which blends prose and verse to satirize moral and intellectual attitudes, a format that Lucian's dialogues anticipated in both form and spirit. His influence extends through the Renaissance and into modern satirical works, impacting writers who explore similar themes of hypocrisy, the follies of intellectualism, and the critique of cultural and societal norms. Lucian's enduring relevance in literature showcases his pioneering role in shaping satirical discourse and lasting impact on subsequent generations of writers. Conclusion. Lucian of Samosata's contributions to literature are marked by an astute understanding of human nature and societal norms, rendered through a lens that is both critical and comedic. His works, characterized by keen observations and a relentless commitment to exposing folly and pretense, have cemented his place as one of antiquity's greatest satirists. Through his innovative use of parody, irony, and exaggeration, Lucian not only entertained his contemporaries but also imparted timeless critiques that resonate with the challenges of any era. Lucian's enduring significance lies in his ability to transcend the specifics of his own culture and time, providing insights that remain pertinent in the modern world. His satirical techniques and the themes he explored, such as the follies of dogmatism and the absurdities of blind faith, are as relevant today as they were in the 2nd century. In an age where misinformation and intellectual pretentiousness continue to pervade, one might ask, how would Lucian have responded to the modern proliferation of fake news? Could his satirical strategies offer modern writers new ways to engage with and critique contemporary social and political issues? Thank you for your time today, and until next time, stay gruntled.